My mother-in-law showed up to our gender reveal party wearing the ring I had stopped wearing 6 months earlier, held up her hand in front of 20 people, and said, "I see you forgot something, Claire." That was the moment I knew the conversation I'd been avoiding for 3 years wasn't optional anymore. My name is Claire. I'm 31. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and I've been married to my husband Marcus for 3 years. Marcus is 33, a civil engineer, and genuinely one of the best people I know. That's the part that made all of this so hard. He's not a bad person. He just grew up with Diane as his mother, which means he spent 3 decades learning that her feelings are the weather, and everyone else just has to dress for it. Diane is 62. She has a way of framing every single thing she wants as something she's doing for you. She doesn't demand, she offers. And the offer always comes with a price tag you don't see until much later. His dad, Robert, is 65. He's quieter than Diane, but he's not neutral. He just lets her run point and then backs her up when the votes are counted. They've been married 40 years, and I think he genuinely believes she's always right. Marcus has a sister, Becca, who is 28. Becca worships Diane. Not in a healthy way. In a, "I will report every conversation back to mom within 4 hours" way. She texted Diane a screenshot of a private message I sent Marcus in the first year of our relationship. That was how I learned to never put anything in writing to Marcus that I didn't want Diane to read. My one real ally in that whole family is Marcus's aunt, his dad's sister, Patrice. She's 58, she lives in Colorado, and she calls Diane the weather system behind her back. The first time Patrice said that to me, I almost cried with relief, just knowing someone else saw it clearly. Okay, the ring. When Marcus and I got engaged, we were both in decent financial shape, but not wedding budget shape. We'd talked about a small ceremony. Maybe 40 people, courthouse followed by a nice dinner, something real, something ours. Diane had other ideas. She called Marcus 2 days after he proposed and told him she wanted to give us a wedding. A real wedding, she said. A venue, flowers, a sit-down dinner for 150 guests. She had a number ready, $40,000. She'd been saving it in a specific account since Marcus was in high school, just for this. Marcus came to me with his eyes lit up. And I want to be honest. I felt the pull too. My own parents are both gone. My mom died when I was 22 and my dad passed 2 years after that. I had $8,000 saved, and Marcus had about $11,000. Diane's $40,000 felt like a gift. It felt like being welcomed into a family. I should have asked more questions. Diane came to me directly about 2 weeks after the engagement. She took me to lunch, just the two of us, which should have been my first warning. She said she wanted to give us something extra, something meaningful. She slid a small velvet box across the table. Inside was a ring. Antique gold band, a cluster of small diamonds around a deep red garnet in the center. She told me it had belonged to Marcus's grandmother, then to her own mother, and that she wanted me to wear it at the wedding as part of a family tradition. The ring was beautiful in an objective way, but it was not my style at all. I wear very little jewelry. My engagement ring from Marcus was a simple solitaire, modern, exactly what I'd wanted. The garnet cluster ring looked like something from a Victorian estate sale. Heavy. Ornate. When I put it on, my hand looked like someone else's hand. I told her I'd think about it. When I talked to Marcus, he said it wasn't a big deal. Just wear it at the wedding. You don't have to wear it every day after. He seemed genuinely unbothered. I told him I didn't love the idea of wearing a ring I hadn't chosen on the biggest day of my life. He said, "She's giving us 40 grand, Claire. Can you just do this one thing?" And I said yes. Because it felt small compared to $40,000. Because I was 28, and I didn't know yet how much small things compound. The wedding was beautiful. The ring sat on my right hand all day and looked nothing like anything else I was wearing. In every single photo from that day, my right hand looks like it belongs to a different person. And in every photo, Diane is glowing. Multiple guests came up and admired the ring, because Diane had told people about it before the wedding. She introduced it before I could. Doesn't Claire look lovely wearing our family ring? 4 generations. That was the first flag I let myself ignore. After the wedding, I wore the ring for about 3 months. I wore it when I knew I'd see Diane. I stopped wearing it on regular days. On Tuesdays at work, on Saturday mornings at home, Because it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And it was my hand. Marcus didn't say anything for a while. Then Diane noticed. She mentioned it first at a Sunday dinner in November, about 5 months after the wedding. She asked if the ring needed resizing. Said she'd noticed I wasn't wearing it as often. I told her it fit fine. I just didn't wear a lot of jewelry to work. She smiled and said, of course. That made sense. Becca texted me the next day. Mom was a little hurt you're not wearing the ring. Just so you know. I showed Marcus the text. He shrugged and said his mom was sensitive, and I should just wear it when we see her. I said I wasn't going to perform wearing jewelry I didn't like in order to manage his mother's feelings. He said I was making it into something bigger than it was. We dropped it. I kept not wearing the ring every day. I kept wearing it when I saw Diane. That pattern held for about a year. An unspoken agreement where I kept up appearances and Diane kept her comments mostly indirect. But in that same year, other patterns started showing up a lot more clearly. In March, 14 months after the wedding, Diane and Robert booked flights to join us on a trip we had planned to Costa Rica. We had told them we were going. We had not invited them. We found out when Robert mentioned at Easter that he was looking forward to it. Marcus and I had an argument that night that went until 2 a.m. I told him he needed to call them and say they were not invited. He made the call. But somehow what came out of it was that they were going to stay at a different resort nearby, and we'd have dinner a couple of nights. They came. It wasn't what I'd call a vacation. In July of that same year, I had an outpatient procedure and was home recovering for a week. Diane arrived on day 2 with food and a suitcase. She told Marcus she'd stay a few days to help. Marcus let her in. I spent my recovery week in my own home, while Diane reorganized my kitchen cabinets and told me 3 separate times about a cousin of hers who had the same procedure and hadn't taken care of herself properly. I asked Marcus to ask her to leave after 4 days. The conversation he had with her resulted in her crying to Robert, who then called Marcus and said Diane was devastated. She left on day 5. She didn't speak warmly to Marcus for 2 weeks after that. And the ring kept coming up. Diane started referencing it in ways that sounded casual but landed like something else. In a group chat called Family Circle, me, Marcus, Becca, Robert, Diane, and Patrice, Diane posted an old photo of Marcus's grandmother wearing the ring and wrote, "So glad this piece is still in the family and being worn with love." I had worn it 4 days earlier at a birthday dinner. Marcus liked the post. I stared at my phone for 5 minutes before I put it down. Patrice called me that same night. She said, "I saw that post. Are you okay?" I told her I was fine. She said, "Diane plants little things and waits. She's going to escalate. She always does when she feels like she's losing." I asked Patrice what exactly I was supposed to be losing. She said, "Marcus. She can't stand that he chose someone who doesn't perform for her." That was October. I held that conversation like a small flashlight in a dark room. In January, Marcus and I found out I was pregnant. We were genuinely, purely thrilled. It was our first. We'd been hoping for about 8 months. And the morning I took the test, I sat on the bathroom floor and cried the good kind of crying. We decided to tell immediate family early because I wanted support in case anything went wrong. We told Diane and Robert in person over dinner at their house on a Saturday. Diane stood up from the table and hugged Marcus first. Long hug. Then hugged me and said, "I hope you know how important it is to us that this child knows where it comes from." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said thank you. On the drive home, Marcus said he thought she meant it warmly. I said maybe. But I already had a feeling that the next 8 months were going to be a negotiation I hadn't signed up for. I was right. By February, Diane had already mentioned 3 times that she hoped we wouldn't use a doula because she planned to be in the delivery room. I had not invited her to be in the delivery room. When I told Marcus I wanted it to be just the 2 of us, he said he agreed, but we should wait until closer to the due date to tell her, to avoid months of drama. I said that telling her earlier meant fewer weeks of her planning around an assumption that wasn't true. We compromised on telling her in the 2nd trimester. Then we didn't tell her, and she kept saying things like, "When I'm in the delivery room," and Marcus kept not correcting it. In March, Diane offered to throw us a baby shower. I said I had 2 friends who had already offered, and I'd rather let them do it since it felt more personal. Diane said of course, she understood. But by the following week, she had texted 3 of my friends, including my 2 closest friends, Jen and Dara, to coordinate. Jen texted me to ask if Diane was supposed to be involved. I called Marcus and told him his mother had gone around me to contact my friends about my own baby shower without being asked. Marcus called Diane. Diane cried and said she hadn't realized it was overstepping. Marcus came back to tell me she felt terrible. I said, that wasn't the same as it not having happened. And then the ring became the thing. In April, I was 5 months pregnant, and I had quietly stopped wearing the garnet ring entirely. Not just on weekdays. Not just at work. All the way. I put it in the velvet box and put the box in my nightstand drawer. My hands were already slightly swollen some days, and I barely wore my own engagement ring, so it was easy enough to explain. But I also just didn't want to anymore. I was tired. I was growing a person. I had nothing left to perform. Diane noticed the third time she saw me after that. We were at her house for Robert's birthday in late April. She asked about the ring in front of 4 other people at the dinner table, not pulling me aside, right there in front of everyone. She said, the ring doesn't fit anymore with the pregnancy? I said my hands were swollen and I was giving my jewelry a rest. She said, it's just that 4 generations of women in his family wore that ring through their pregnancies. I said I was sure it looked beautiful on all of them. Marcus put his hand on my knee under the table. I didn't know if that was support or a quiet request to drop it. We drove home mostly quiet. I told Marcus I wasn't going to wear the ring anymore, and I wasn't going to discuss it further. He said he understood, he just wanted me to be patient with her. I said I had been patient for 3 years, and I was done. He went quiet and stayed there for a few days. We planned the gender reveal for a Saturday in May. My friends Jen and Dara helped me put it together. About 20 people at our house. In the backyard, a cake with the colored filling inside. Simple, the way we liked things. Diane and Robert arrived 40 minutes early. Nobody had asked them to arrive early. They just showed up. Diane walked straight into my kitchen and started rearranging the table I had set up. I was upstairs finishing getting ready when Jen came to find me and said, your mother-in-law's in the kitchen, moving everything around. I came downstairs and redirected the setup back to how I had it, without saying anything directly, because I was 6 months pregnant and I did not have the energy for a fight 20 minutes before guests arrived. The party was fine. We cut the cake. It was a girl. I cried again. Marcus grabbed me, and we stayed in that moment for as long as we could. And then Diane held up her hand. She was standing maybe 8 feet away from me, in my backyard, in front of my friends and our families. She had the garnet ring on her own hand. She held it up and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I see you forgot something, Claire. The backyard went quiet for 2 full seconds. I heard Dara say under her breath, what the hell? I looked at Diane. She was smiling, not a mean smile. That almost would have been easier. It was a smile like she thought this was charming, like this was a fun little family moment, like everyone in the yard would nod along and think it was sweet. I said, I didn't forget anything, Diane. She tilted her head and said, it belongs with you, not in a box. Marcus stepped in and said something about cake and redirected the moment. People moved and the conversation scattered. But it sat in me for the rest of the afternoon like a stone. After everyone left and we were cleaning up, I told Marcus that what his mother had done was a public attempt to humiliate me, and I was done pretending otherwise. He said she didn't mean it that way. I said the intent didn't change what it felt like to be called out in front of 20 people at my own gender reveal. I told him 3 things. 1, I was returning the ring. 2, we needed to have an honest conversation with Diane about boundaries going forward, including that she would not be in the delivery room. 3, if he could not back me up when I drew a line, I needed to understand that now before the baby came. He sat with that for a long time. Then he said, you're right. I'll set up a call with her. I said no, not a call, in person. We went to Diane and Robert's house the following Thursday evening. I brought the ring in the velvet box. I put it on the kitchen table between us before anyone said anything else. Diane looked at it and looked at me. She didn't touch it. I said I wanted to return it because I wasn't comfortable wearing it, and I should have said that from the beginning. I said I didn't fully understand the conditions attached to the financial gift when I agreed, and I should have pushed back then. And I was pushing back now, late. I said I didn't want to be unkind, but I also wasn't going to keep performing for anyone, including her. The temperature in that kitchen dropped. Diane looked at Marcus and said, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Marcus said, she's not being disrespectful, Mom. She's being honest with you. Diane's face crumpled and then reset. She said, "That ring was a gift. I gave it in love. And this is what I get." Robert said her name in a low voice, like a warning. I said the ring was a gift with expectations, and I understood those expectations meant something to her, but they weren't something I could carry forever. Diane stood up from the table, she said, after everything we've done for this family. Then she walked to the back of the house, and we heard the bedroom door close. Robert looked at Marcus and said, "You need to think about what you're doing to your mother." Marcus said, "Dad, I love you. But Claire is my wife. This is our family. We need you and Mom to respect that." We left 10 minutes later. The ring was still on the table. The group chat started within 2 hours. Becca sent a 4-minute voice message to the family circle chat, with me still in it, that basically said, "Claire has always had a problem with this family. Claire doesn't appreciate what Diane and Robert have sacrificed. Marcus is being controlled, and this is going to affect the baby." 4 minutes. I read the transcript Marcus made for me because I couldn't listen to her voice. I left the group chat. Then I texted Becca directly, "I'm going to need some space from you for a while. Please don't contact me." She sent back 3 messages in a row. I didn't read them. I blocked her number. Then the extended family started. A cousin of Marcus's named Derek, who I had met maybe 4 times, texted Marcus to say he'd heard what happened and that it was wrong. An aunt on Diane's side called Marcus and spent 45 minutes talking about how sensitive Diane was and how pregnancy hormones were making me difficult. Marcus told me about the call, and I asked him what he said. He told her that their marriage wasn't up for family discussion. I want to say that again because it mattered to me. Marcus told her their marriage was not up for family discussion. Patrice called me separately. She said, "Diane has been calling everyone she knows. Expect about a week of this." She also said she had told Diane directly that she had overstepped at the gender reveal and that Diane had not taken it well. I thanked her. Patrice said, "You did the right thing. The ring was never just a ring." No, it was never just a ring. Diane sent Marcus an email, an actual 7-paragraph email, in which she listed every financial contribution she and Robert had ever made to their lives. The $40,000 wedding, a $5,000 loan from before we met that Marcus had already paid back, various gifts over the years. The phrase, "after all we've given," appeared 4 times. I counted. Marcus showed me the email. His face was tired. He said, "I'm not going to respond the way she wants me to." I asked what she wanted. He said she wanted him to come back to her without me, to tell her she was right and that he'd handle me. He didn't do that. Instead, Marcus wrote his own response. He showed me before he sent it. The email said he loved her. He appreciated everything she and Robert had done, and none of it changed the fact that Claire was his wife and the mother of his child, and he would not tolerate anyone treating her with disrespect, including her. He said the delivery room would be him and Claire only. He said they were welcome in their granddaughter's life when they could treat Claire as a full member of the family. He said he hoped they could get there. He hit send while I was sitting next to him. Diane did not respond for 9 days. In those 9 days, Robert called Marcus twice, and Marcus kept the calls short and repeated the same thing each time. Becca sent Marcus a string of texts telling him I was isolating him from his family. Marcus texted back, "She's my family, Becca. So is the baby. Act accordingly." He told me about it over dinner that night like it was just information, like it was already decided. I didn't say much. I just sat with the fact that he had done it without me having to ask. The 9 days ended when Diane called on a Sunday morning and asked if she and Robert could come over and talk. Marcus asked me first. I said yes, but I had conditions. The ring was not coming back up. The delivery room was settled. The baby shower was mine to plan with my friends, and any involvement from Diane needed to be invited, not assumed. Marcus relayed all 3 points to Diane on the phone before confirming the meeting. They came over that Sunday. It was not warm. Diane walked in and looked around our living room like she was cataloging it. Robert shook Marcus's hand. I got a nod. We sat down, and Diane said she'd been doing a lot of thinking. She said she understood she had a tendency to get involved in ways that weren't always welcome. She said she loved Marcus more than anything, and she was going to try to do better. She did not say my name once during this speech. I let it go. Not because I thought it was enough, but because I was 7 months pregnant, and the relationship between my daughter and her grandparents was going to outlast this conversation, and I was willing to try. I said I appreciated her saying that, and I hoped we could build something that worked for everyone. Robert cleared his throat and said, "And the ring?" I looked at him. I said, "It's yours. I returned it. That part is done." Diane looked down at her lap. I thought for a second she was going to push it further. Instead, she said, "Okay." We had coffee. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't a fight. They left an hour later. Marcus closed the door behind them, turned around and said, "You okay?" I said I was okay. He said, "I know that was hard. I'm sorry it took me so long to get here." I didn't let that sit without answering it. I told him I needed him to understand that the slowness had cost me, that 3 years of being told to be patient while she kept pushing had left a mark, that I needed him to be faster next time, and that there would probably be a next time. He said he knew. He said he was going to be faster. We shook hands on that, which sounds strange, but we actually did. I held out my hand, he shook it like a deal, and then we both laughed. It was the first time I'd laughed in about 3 weeks. My daughter was born in August, 6 pounds, 14 ounces. We named her Rosie. Diane and Robert came to the hospital the day after, not during. They held Rosie. Diane cried. Real tears, not performance tears, and I could tell the difference by then. She looked at Rosie like she was something precious. I watched that, and let myself feel something close to okay about it. Becca reached out about a month after Rosie was born. She sent a card with a note saying she was sorry, and she hoped I'd let her be part of Rosie's life. Marcus and I talked about it and agreed to a slow reintroduction. A coffee, just me and Becca, to test the waters. It was awkward. Becca cried. I told her I didn't need an emotional reckoning, I just needed her to stop feeding information back to Diane. She said she would try. I told her trying wasn't going to be enough and I needed her to actually do it. She nodded. It's been 4 months since then. Becca has been okay, not close. Okay. Diane and Robert see Rosie twice a month now. The visits are scheduled in advance, and they happen at our house, on our terms. Diane asked once, back in September, whether I had given any thought to passing the ring to Rosie someday. I said that was going to be between Rosie and her own family when the time came. Diane pressed her lips together and let it go. That was the last time the ring came up. Marcus and I are good, not perfect. We had a rough stretch in the fall when newborn exhaustion mixed with the aftermath of everything and we had some hard nights. We saw a couples therapist for about 6 sessions, which helped a lot. She said something in the 3rd session that I wrote down. The ring was never about jewelry. It was about who had the right to define Claire in this family. That's exactly what it was. I don't carry the weight of it the way I did. Some mornings I look at my hands and just see my hands. That sounds like a small thing, but it took a while to get back there. As for the ring, I genuinely don't know where it is now. Back with Diane somewhere, I assume. Maybe in a box. Maybe she's already planning to try again with Rosie 20 years from now. That's a problem for future Claire. Current Claire is pretty busy. So I want to hear from you. What would you have done? Would you have worn the ring from the beginning and avoided all of this? Or is there a moment earlier in this story where you would have drawn the line harder? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.